And welcome back to the Pokemon Regional Championships in Bremen. Today we're heading into round 4.
Yes, we are. We've had three pretty great rounds of action so far, to be honest. So it's been like we had a few surprises along the way as well. I think it's safe to say, like some old favorites coming back, some veteran players, some newer players, some fan favorites from previous tournaments, and a surprise Mewtwo V Union, which I'm still a little shell-shocked about. But yeah, it's been a great tournament so far.
It's been a massively interesting variety of decks, and it really goes to show how wide the variety of decks within the current format are. So it looks like we're going to go see the players in a moment.
Yes, we are. So going into round 4, we have another great match coming up for you with two more, like I say, the more well-known names going into this one. So we have on the left here Bryan Vries, a very well-known player from the Netherlands, and Tobias Smutkowski, who's actually been away for a little bit. It's kind of like come back recently. Had some very good success in time and is now sort of back here playing, which is great to see. And we're going to be seeing here, it's going to be, we don't quite have the sort of the decks up right here on the screen, but just we can in fact tell you. So it's going to be the first Mew VMAX that we're seeing today being played by Tobias, whereas Bryan is going to be playing a Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX toolbox kind of deck. So the sort of Urshifu Inteleon that we saw like terrorize the EUIC.
And again, it's two decks that we haven't seen today, but have grown in popularity through the regional tournaments in the last couple of months. So it's really interesting to see them back at it again against each other. But these decks are both very unique. They've got some really interesting tech cards and amounts in their decks that do make these much more unique, in my opinion, than we've seen from a lot of the Mew and Rapid Strike decks in the past. So hopefully this will be a really interesting match.
Yeah, completely agreed. I think, although it's especially interesting with like seeing Mew VMAX being played, because although it is considered without a doubt one of the top contenders of the format, we have seen it slip a little bit in popularity over like the last 2 tournaments, especially. I think. We kind of, with that sort of takeover of a lot of dark variants, especially, people have been a bit scared to play the Mew VMAX, understandably. But Tobias here bringing it back, and here on 3-0, so clearly off to a great start with it. And yeah, exactly like you just said, some very interesting tech choices in Tobias's list that we've not really seen in Mew VMAX lists before.
It should be an interesting game for sure. There's lots that both of these decks have to bring to the table. The nice thing about Mew is that it's just consistent. It's fast, it works well, it does big damage, you can heal or pop the cards back into deck. So there's a lot that it brings to the table, but the fear of those dark decks is really what brings it into the danger zone when you're looking at it from a competitive standpoint. The Baby Moltres being probably the biggest pivot point of do I or don't I play Mew VMAX, but a truly fantastic Mew VMAX player won't be afraid of that.
Yeah, it is one of those things where, you know, going up trading against like something that gives up 2 prizes might be one thing, but when you have single prize Pokemon that's one-shotting Mew VMAX, that can be a little hard to contend with. But clearly Tobias thinking now's the right time to bring this deck back, and he definitely is the kind of player with the right sort of like skill set to do it effectively. As we see, he's off to a pretty solid start. We had the Battle VIP pass to start things off, a Rose Tower too to draw a card, and another Battle VIP pass. What a rip from the top of the deck!
Really does give Tobias a roaring head start, giving them the opportunity to make the perfect Genesect Mew and Meloetta filled bench for this matchup.
Yes, although one thing we won't be seeing, which we have seen a lot recently in Mew lists, is no Oricorio, which is interesting. So we will not be seeing an Oricorio hit the field, of course, being the one that reduces the damage your Fusion Strike Pokemon take by 20, but not present in this list. Tobias thinking, you know what, now's not really the right time for it anymore.
No, and we've seen a few decks have the Ice Cube as well, actually, recently. So, again, not opting for the Ice Cube, no sniping, no bench sniping for this Mew deck.
No, absolutely not. As you see there, so yeah, the Rose Tower is used now. We see the first Fusion Strike system activated for the full complement of 6. Always going to be happy to see that. And off of that, Tobias finds an Ultra Ball, going to discard another Ultra Ball and a Genesect with that, but then not going to grab anything, just kind of leaving it there. And just almost certainly just doing that to thin the hand out as much as possible. And then another Fusion Strike system to draw the 3 cards. And that's the Mew VMAX in hand. I think that's the main piece that Tobias wanted to make sure he was able to see.
Yeah, the Mew VMAX still being very essential to this deck, especially if they've not got many secondary attackers. The Oricorio in some matchups is still a worthy attacker.
Yes.
Against like Rapid Strike Malamar, and even against something like Bryan right now with little Sobbles, which can be glistening drops.
Yeah. The glistening droplets can come in very handy, but of course, just not an option that's available to Tobias. So he's going to have to, make do with the cross fusion strike, copying Technoblast, or of course the Melodious Echo from the Meloetta. Another quick ball being played, discarding. Well, it was grabbing a Meloetta and then discarding it with another quick ball just to fin again. And this is kind of how a lot of the early Mew turns go. You want to kind of thin your deck out as much of the setup things as possible to just leave you with the last few pieces you need to close out a game at any given time.
And they finally hit that Elsa Sparkle, so they can finally get the extra energy or two that they were looking for on. Opted for the 1 for now, so not overextending themselves. The Mew with the free retreat
actually, it's
lovely.
because they have 2 in their hand.
Oh, do they?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's why they didn't really have a choice.
I did not spot they had 2 in their hand. And then 1 double turbo in prizes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're not looking good for acceleration of energy, which is one of Mew's strong points.
Yes, absolutely. And also, something I didn't realize until now, Bryan actually went first, but his turn was so fast with just like a level ball pass that we didn't even notice it. So Tobias actually went second in that game, and that's why they were actually able to attack. But Bryan's hand doesn't look great, just a Peonia. And then putting back, I didn't even see what he grabbed off of that, but it is looking slightly scary for Bryan right now, just left with a lone Sobble.
Yeah, and they have search options now. They've got more basics.
Yes, and they've got the Mew as well, which is really strong. So, of course, the Mew letting you, if it's in the active, just look at the top 6 cards of your deck and then take an item from there and put it into your hand.
So, do we think they're going to keep calling or go back for the ability on the Mew? It's a difficult decision here.
It is. I think either one is valid, but I think the problem is if you retreat and then don't have anything else from you, left with nothing. So I think
they keep calling.
I think this is sensible here because of course in Bryan's list you can use it not just to grab another Sobble, but you could use it to grab a Urshifu as well. But of course you don't want to do that because of the psychic weakness and the 4th Sobble's prize too.
Yeah. But obviously they didn't see that with their Peonia, but they probably did through deck search. So we have 1 in prizes, 2 in play, and obviously 1 in the discard pile.
Yes, that just got knocked out. So yeah, Bryan's still with a very shaky start here. It's always tricky when, like, obviously, your main attacker is kind of something that gets hit for weakness so easily.
Yeah, I mean, they still could pull it back. They've got the baby Moltres in hand.
That is true, yeah.
And that can one-hit KO a Mew very quickly. It's one of those cards that comes into play so quick. It flashes before your eyes and knocks out your VMAX. And you think, oh, my goodness, where did that come from? So, actually, there is a pivot point here where the more prize cards get taken by our Mew player, the better it is for Bryan to be able to maybe make that comeback. So it's worth playing this game out.
Yeah, no question. And of course, with the that's the whole reason why a lot of these Urshifu decks play like the Dark package as well, because you can't attack with Urshifu because you're essentially giving a prize of nothing, but then you hit the Mew's weakness with your Dark package, and all of a sudden you turn what might be an Autolot into a very favorable matchup.
Absolutely. So maybe a few little Sobbles taking a knockout right now isn't going to be the end of the world. If anything, it could make all the difference in the end.
So very smart here from Tobias. The Psychic Leap gets used. So, of course, the Cross Fusion Strike copying the Psychic Leap on the Mew V on the bench. So doing enough knockout and then shuffling all his energies back into the deck. I think a very smart play from Tobias there.
So we've got a Pierce in hand here as well. So more Dark types can be acquired.
We're also seeing there the, I believe it's something it's called Prehensile Tail or Mysterious Tail there.
Mysterious Tail, yes.
Yes, so Bryan able to look at the top 6 cards of the deck and get an item from there. And now going to be playing a Sonia, so going to be using that to grab out a couple more Pokemon. And looks
couple of basics.
Yes, so looking to grab a Snorlax and a Hooper from that. Of course, the Snorlax was a card we've seen play as a one-of in a lot of decks, just for that really strong Gourmandize ability, letting you draw until you have 7 cards in your hand if it's in the active and then ending your turn.
Absolutely, and although Snorlax has a difficult retreat cost, we do see Birdkeeper in play here, which gives our Hooper the ability to attack with Assault Gate for 1 Darkness Energy, which is fantastic. So a 90 damage card. Not fantastic against Mew because the drawback of Assault Gate is that it doesn't give weakness damage.
No, indeed. It's just that 90 poke and that's it. And I think Bryan recognizing that, thinking, okay, actually the best thing for me to do right here is just to attach to the active Mew, retreat into the Snorlax, and then go for that Gourmandize. But now we see Tobias plays an escape rope, so this forces Bryan to promote something else, and yeah, this seems like the obvious choice here. Like the Hooper, like you just said, not doing much right now, so best to just have it as the unfortunate sacrificial lamb, as it were. And,
to Mew.
And we see now a Cramomatic from Tobias that is ahead, so this card is so nuts.
It is, and they had 2 in the prize card, so they drew into one of those.
Oh, right. oh my goodness. So, yeah, of course, the Cramomatic letting you, if you... Like, you have to discard an item card from your hand, and then you flip a coin, and if heads, you get to search your deck for any card, like literally any card you want. It's and of course in the Mew deck, the whole reason why you play this is because even if you hit a tails, that's just fitting cards out of your hands, draw more with Genesect anyway. So even the worst outcome isn't that bad for you.
No, it can be a bit of a win-win situation, regardless if a player debates whether a coin flip card is worth it. In this instance, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question, because if you do hit heads, you're just like so much further ahead anyway. And then if you hit tails, I can just draw more with Genesect.
Oh no!
Yeah, how horrible. So there goes the boss's orders.
Oh
yeah, bringing up the Sobble there. And is this going to be another Psychic Leap? Well, no, going to draw some more of the Fusion Strike systems first off of the Genesects. Got a very stacked hand to work with here, and I think Tobias is playing this very smartly. He's kind of making sure that to not give up too many energies, and yeah, even just going for the Psychic Leap now, recognizing that keeping the energies available to him with Release of Sparkles is how he's going to be able to take the prize trade favorably by knocking out these Pokemon anywhere from prize.
He's also being very clever in that he's not trying not to let Bryan use those Moltres against him.
Yes.
He's always leaving something inactive that's not going to destroy his own game plan. Last turn he left a Genesect inactive, I think it was,
Yes,
and
it
then
was, yeah.
Meloetta this time. So either a 2-prizer that's non-essential for attacking, or a single prizer. Now Meloetta is very strong, don't get me wrong,
Of course.
but again, it's making that prize trade favorable. They need their Mew VMAX to be their, or their Mew V to be their primary attacker. Leaving that in the active, vulnerable against all of these potential dark types, now that they're taking more prizes and the Moltres is scarier.
Yeah, no question about that. I couldn't agree more. So in the meantime, here we go with the Piers for Bryan. Of course, able to get any dark Pokemon and basic energy from, or is it? No, it's any energy, right? Or is it just basics with Piers?
Oh no, Piers can search for any energy.
Yeah.
You can take special energy, which is one of the reasons that it is favorable in more than just dark decks on occasion, because if anybody does just play a Crobat, you could always search that and a special energy, which is pretty powerful.
But here actually, like you were saying before, here it is coming in, the Hooper with the Assault Gate, able to do 90, which is, of course, even with regardless of no weakness, can straight up knock out that Meloetta.
And definitely a reason to put it in the deck. Against this matchup, it is such a little savior. And the combination with all of the different pivot cards in format right now, Bryan can utilize that in many different ways.
Yeah, no question about it. So here we go, back to Tobias' turn. Trying to think of how next best to progress, because Bryan hasn't really left any amazing targets for Tobias here. It's kind of the best play for Tobias is probably just to KO the active anyway, but then Bryan just brings up the Mew, does another Mysterious Tail, and just keeps setting up. I think Bryan has played this pretty cleverly. Now, the only problem is, of course, Tobias has been able to take 3 prizes already, so he's got a bit of a prize lead going on.
Yeah, ideally he wants to be able to get one of those Moltres out and take out a Mew VMAX, but Tobias is going to have to leave a Mew in the danger zone eventually. He's going to have to leave it in the active after doing an attack at some point.
Yes, and that's exactly where Tobias runs into issues, because up to now he's played it very smartly, like you said.
He can Psychic Leap,
He could Psychic Leap, yeah, and that he's done that in the past to bring up a Genesect and then bring up a Meloetta, but he is going to run out of stuff to bring up eventually, or at some point Bryan will have a boss's orders. So
yes, exactly.
So this is where Tobias needs to be a little bit careful. He has a good lead, but can he keep it?
The power tabs is interesting because we're looking at potentially being able to Psychic Leap knock out the Hooper with enough damage modifiers.
That could be strong, actually. So I imagine that's probably what Tobias in an ideal world will be going for.
They've got another power tab in hand, but I imagine they're not going to burn it until they have to. Burning through too many resources right now could be bad.
Yeah, so Psychic Leap does 70, so with Hooper having 120 HP, he would need to play that one more power tablet to get the KO. And it would, of course, enable the hand size to be reduced by a little bit more to actually get there. And yeah, so he's going
The
to...
energy looks like the struggle at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, it actually going to KO the Mew, interestingly enough. Okay. Maybe thinking, all right, the Hooper I'm not too scared of, but, you know, Bryan being able to fetch Wise out the deck kind of scares me a little bit more. And then...
Well, we're still struggling for energy, though.
Yeah, and... Well, it needs to be a double turbo now, that's the thing, because this now takes away the options for at least a Sparkle plus attachment to get there.
And we know that there's one double turbo in prizes.
Yes, although Tobias, unlike some lists which have kind of been going with like the less double turbo route, Tobias does play free, so there are 2 more copies he could draw into.
We do have potential. The deck's quite thin at this point.
Yeah, and yeah, I think I saw a couple there at the top, so unfortunately, yeah, those are going to get shuffled now, so hopefully they stay at the top for Tobias, and he can draw them with either the second or third Fusion Strike system. Here we go, so...
Let's hope we see it.
Yeah, and I think, thinking about it more, I think the reason why Tobias is okay playing these power tablets, even though they was essentially wasted because he could have KO'd the Mew anyway, is because he knows that Bryan isn't going to put down anything that he can't deal with without power tablet boosting. So just getting these out of the hand actually just makes sense. Yeah. He's even considering playing another one now.
Yeah, he doesn't need them for the latter game, but obviously we do have some slightly higher HP Pokemon. They can't Psychic Leap forever, and that's the thing. If you don't Psychic Leap, unless you're doing the finishing blow, the winning move, leaving that Mew VMAX in the active by not Psychic Leaping is dangerous.
It is, and speaking of that, Tobias has unfortunately, after all those draws, missed the double turbo energy. That's horrendous. So yeah, just going to have to be a fusion energy attached to the bench Mew VMAX and then pass. That's after all that work.
Unfortunate. But does Bryan have the power to knock out a Genesect? Because that's what they've been left with. Unless they can Boss's Orders, there is potential they could take out a Mew VMAX here.
Yeah, that is a good question. Now, yeah, Tobias is taking 3 prizes, so the Moltres would currently be doing 170 damage, so that would actually double for weakness and knockout.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Moltres gets very scary.
It gets so scary so quickly, and that's the thing. Now Tobias is left in a vulnerable position.
Yes, no question. And there goes the Ultra Ball, in fact. It's just funny, like, Bryan's deck has this whole Inteleon engine going, but we've barely seen any Inteleon pieces go down.
No, and the thing is that although it has the Inteleon engine, it's clearly not completely reliant on it.
Yeah, it's not one of those decks that completely falls apart without it. And is that an amazing rare Celebi?
It is!
I don't even know what that does.
Oh, yeah. There you go. When we were talking about the element of surprise not long ago.
Yes.
And absolutely, it's one of those moments where the opponent is having to read the card, and that is a terrifying moment for any competitive player.
Yes, it really is.
They have to read the card. Now, Amazing Rare Celebi doesn't have any abilities, but it does have an energy-based attack.
Yes. So
energy press.
Yes, so for the benefit of those watching at home, energy press for 1 grass energy does 30 damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So yeah, if you have like a bunch of energy stats on the active, that can get pretty scary. And the second attack there, I don't think Bryan can actually use it in the deck, but it's for a Lightning and a Psychic. It does Amazing Bloom. It just basically lets you evolve each of your bench Pokemon once. But yeah, not going to be coming up here because I don't think there's the required energy for it. So,
but a very interesting card to see. I wasn't expecting a Celebi. Maybe the one with the Woodland Walk ability, I think it is called.
Oh, yes, that one. But
yeah, I would more so have been expecting that one, but this one is interesting.
Yeah, maybe, I think it might be that Bryan just wants something else to threaten an attack with, or even just something to pivot with. Because we saw he attached a fighting energy to it, which doesn't meet any of Celebi's attack cost at all.
No, but it's a retreat cost, and obviously getting that Hooper into play for Assault Gate can be worthwhile.
Yes. Yeah, no question. I think that's, I'd imagine that's what Bryan is thinking of right now as Tobias plays at least a Sparkle, just attaches to 1 energy, this time on purpose because we know that there's more energies in the deck. Oh no, he drew them both again!
Oh, crumbs.
That's, yeah, twice we're thinking, oh yeah, he's being conservative at least a Sparkle. Nope.
But he can manual attach for turn, it's okay.
Yeah, he can. And he's got the Switch ready in hand as well, so there we go. Now into the Mew, and there's going to be a Psychic Leap for 70, which will... Oh, okay, good. You're going to do some Fusion Strike systems first. Of course, may as well draw the extra cards while you can. Drawing cards wins games, we know this for a fact.
Absolutely, and they've already got the energy in hand. They know they can't necessarily at least a Sparkle next turn unless They do Psychic Leap, which is likely, to be fair. So they might as well draw and get ready for next turn.
Yes, and so there it is now, thinking about it, and there we go. Psychic Leap one more time. Going to knock out this Mew and leave Tobias just 2 prize cards away from winning this game 1. Having to do it the hard way, knocking out, like, a single prize at every single time.
And that's, these guys run the risk in that regard of running out of time.
Yes, sometimes they do, straight up. And this is kind of something we were discussing earlier about how, recognizing when to concede a game can make all the difference between winning a game and tying a game. And I'm wondering if it might be getting to that point for Bryan, honestly, especially knowing seeing how his deck works and seeing that it does win a bit more slowly. It does make me wonder about whether it might be worth considering that right now. Although having said that, here comes the big bad Galarian Moltres.
Oh, that's what we were waiting for. And there's the retreat cost on the Celebi.
Yeah, so very clever heads-up play. Yeah, literally just thinking, attach to the Celebi so I have something to retreat. And now, yeah, that's going to be carrying that Mew.
Just a Mew V, though.
Just
so
a
only
Mew V.
2 prize cards.
Yeah. Oh, but importantly, taking out an energy on the field.
Very important, very important, because Tobias at this point has burnt through a lot of their resources.
Yes.
So that energy acceleration becomes less consistent.
Yeah, so that's a very wise decision there from Bryan. Taking 2 prize cards, so now only 1 prize behind to Tobias, and now Tobias is going to be looking to maybe play a Cramomatic to try and get some, either a double turbo or some more energy generally down, maybe by going for another Elusive Sparkle. There's 1 left, so you could play 1 more Sparkle if you wanted to. But
they've got 2 more prize cards to take, so they're going to need either a double turbo or some more acceleration in some other way for the next turn.
Yes, and this is where having burned through the power tablets earlier could come back to bite Tobias, because now he might struggle to get KOs with Psychic Leap specifically.
Yeah, especially because we've got the Moltres out now, and it can just keep attacking.
Yeah, it is. Okay, but to be fair, there's
double turbo.
Yeah, but okay, but double turbo and 1 power tablet will get the job done here. So now I guess it's less of a worry, because the final attack, you can do whatever you want. You can leave the UV max active, and it's okay. So actually, Tobias played this masterfully, leaving just enough resources to play this out in the right way. Just gonna have 1 last look through before the stream freezes. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Mild heart attack for a second.
Yeah, so what's going on? Right, so we say goodbye to Celebi in that one.
Yeah, Psychic Leap does take the knockout, and now the way Tobias seals this game is just by evolving to UV Max 1 more time, and then attaching a double turbo and doing Cross Fusion Strike, and copying Technoblast. I don't think anything Bryan puts out can survive that.
No, certainly not. That big attack from Genesect is definitely going to come in handy here, if they can get that energy.
Yeah, although Tobias I don't think he's got it guaranteed yet. I think otherwise he would have promoted the Mew, I'm sure.
Yes, they don't have the double turbo in hand, but they have a very thin deck.
Yes.
And so even if they get it this turn, it's completely fine.
Yes. There goes Quick Ball, discarding the the Mew has to go to the bench. And then there's an Elusive Sparkle onto both of those.
Again, I think it's just mainly deck thinning as much as possible. So when they do draw off the Genesect, they're getting their entire deck.
Yes, and then that Tobias must have worked out that doing that guarantees the win.
So making that deck as thin as possible is going to give them the paramount opportunity to do so. So there's the switch into the Mew.
And now it's just find.
Now they've got the energy, so don't need the double turbo.
Yeah, and now it's just find VMAX and win, and there it is.
Oh, there it is. First draw. So thinning that deck paid off.
Yes. So Tobias navigating what honestly is a very tough matchup exceptionally well there, using the Psychic Leaps over and over to take the knockouts on the single prizes, deny the free prize knockouts to Bryan. Yeah, Tobias showing what an excellent player he is, really.
And Bryan, unfortunately, just didn't hit the Drizzle engine off at all.
No.
So they might have been in a stronger position if they had have done. There's a lot of really interesting cards in their deck, like that Celebi, and there's some other lovely bits in there as well. So it's interesting to see. But they do have to essentially ignore part of what their deck does in regards to the Urshifus to be able to force Tobias to play in the way that they did.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that's going to be the biggest struggle or the biggest thing to try and do differently in game 2 is to set up that intelligent engine, but it wasn't as if Bryan didn't try to in game 1. He just wasn't really given the chance.
No, not at all. And again, that game went on for quite long because it goes to a 6-prize game.
Yes.
With taking every single prize card one at a time.
Yeah, so it's been a long time since like the metagame has been, yes, you have to take 6 knockouts to take each one of your individual 6 prize cards to win, but Tobias literally had to do that to win that game. And unfortunately, it looks like that Celebi in the prize cards for Bryan this time, although not the most important card in the world, so maybe it's fine. Although, looking at
one of my favourite combos in that deck, which is the Moltres with Clara, they do only run 1 Clara.
Oh, goodness, okay. You see, that's the thing. Usually, the reason why that didn't catch my eye at first is usually a lot of these just play 2 Clara, but only 1 in this list. So actually, that's way more of a big deal than it usually would be.
Yeah, actually one of their Darkness Energy as well, only playing 4. So that Moltres combo is looking a little bit scarier to pull off because they might have to sort of have the energy already or Sonia for it because they're not going to be able to do that fantastic combination of Clara for both the energy and the Moltres straight into your hand.
Right.
That's just not going to be a possibility unless they take that as one of their first prize cards if they manage to get an early knockout.
Now, just looking at the start of this game, Tobias hit a Tails on a Cramomatic, attached a double turbo energy to the Mew and just passed.
That is not what you want to see from a Mew player.
That's a horrendous start for Tobias, my goodness. So Bryan's definitely going to want to try and capitalize on this here. I don't think he has a way to like take a first turn knockout, unfortunately. It's not quite that kind of deck, but there's unless does he play the Galarian Moltres V or just just
the baby Moltres. And they don't play anything like Path to the Peak, of course, so that's interesting as well because they're not going to be able to necessarily shut the Mew down for long.
No, it seems that way. So yeah, well, we'll see if Tobias can like find an out because of course now that turn 1's passed, Battle VIP pass is no longer an out at all. Bryan just going straight in though with like the Galarian Moltres ability, whacks it down with 2 Dark Energies.
Well, just in case if nothing else comes out but that Mew.
Yeah. What did Tobias even draw?
A Genesect.
A Genesect can thin the hand out a little bit more? Oh, there's a Marnie.
Marnie, lovely.
Okay, so
yeah, not all Mew decks play too many draw supporters, so to hit the Marnie's nice.
Yeah, it is, and especially because the thing is with Marnie, of course, is it kind of crept into Mew list a little bit more as an answer to disrupt the opponent's. I think a lot of it came to do with Rapid Strike Malamar, right? Because it was a way to disrupt that deck. But I think
in fact, some people opted to play Judge early on as well.
In the Mew VMAX.
Yeah, for the same reason.
Yeah, and I think the main it's a tricky one because of course it kind of goes counter to your own strategy withdrawing with the Genesects and stacking with the Rotom phones. So like Marnie's a bit stronger in that regard, but of course Judge it's kind of a tricky thing to balance because of course Judge lets you just kind of how can I put this? It means it so that they can just redraw some of the cards that you put back, which sometimes might be good, sometimes might be worse.
Yeah, it's very situational. That was the issue with it, and that's why it eventually dropped off the radar a little bit. But we saw it a lot of Liverpool.
Yes, we did. Now, so here we are with the first Fusion Strike system of the game. Now, Tobias is able to set up a little bit more on the bench, actually start to try and get something going. We see 1 Power Tablet go down and a Choice Belt onto the bench Genesect. Then the second Fusion Strike system, there's not a whole amount to work with in that hand, unfortunately. There's I think the missing the Mew VMAX was the big miss there. We see like an Echoing Horn, was to be like another double turbo, and then I can't even actually see what the other card is. But that's going to be a energy mix from this Mew that just went into the active. So going to be able to search the deck for any energy and attach it to a Fusion Strike Pokemon.
So it looks like they're hoping that Snorlax can't come back. And even so, even if it does, the Moltres isn't very powerful right now. They have all their prize cards.
Yeah. The Moltres, of course, doing 20, then 50 more for each prize card your opponent's taken. So right now it's literally just doing 20.
Yeah.
It's
so
not really that scary.
No, not that terrifying right this second.
No. So Bryan, meanwhile, going for an evolution incense, it looks like, although nothing to evolve at this point. So I didn't even see what they ended up grabbing in the end. Was it? They might. Oh, they might have just grabbed it. They might have just played it just to burn it, and then now they can. And now, of course, they can.
Now they can Gormandize for more.
Yes. So
They hit another Urshifu VMAX in that hand after the Gorman dies. So it's not going great for either player right now. In the way that their decks work, this is not ideal.
It's not ideal, although I think Tobias is not ideal is a lot better than Bryan's right now, it's safe to say, because, yeah, like now there's going to be a KO on this Moltres.
And they can't Clara it back.
No.
And so that's both of their Moltres gone.
Yeah, that actually is. Wow, so unless Bryan can take a prize or something else, there's no more Galarian Moltres shenanigans happening in this game.
No, Tobias doesn't know that.
No, it's true.
But there's genuinely no threat of it at the moment from Bryan's side, unless they can take a KO in a different way.
Yeah, and honestly, looking at Bryan's hand, I don't see where much of a follow-up play is coming from. I think his hand is mostly dead.
It's not ideal, and it kind of feels like Tobias knows that, because there's no Meloetta down.
No,
They're
exactly.
not giving Bryan any space to knock something out, because it's going to be very difficult for Bryan to take a prize card at this rate.
Yeah, and that's going to be a Psychic Leap, but not shuffling back, interestingly enough.
Not afraid.
No.
Muse says, I'm not scared of you, Moltres, not today.
No, not this time. Bryan, okay, having said that, Bryan does have a Quick Ball and what looks to be a Sonya, so not completely dead hand. He does have at least something to work with here. But
there are options, and they can manual retreat the Moltres. It's not the best, but he could save it.
He could, and it'd be very interesting to see what he goes for off of this Sonya. Yeah, I think you kind of have to play it, really. You need to start getting something to set yourself up with.
Yeah,
and
Sobble's a great choice, with it, and Mew, so two things that they're going to be able to get better and more resources in the future from their deck.
Yeah, and there goes the scoop up net, sort of picking up the Moltres, putting it back into the hand, and then there we go. Now we can see a keep calling for what we know will be the full complement of 3 other Sobbles, and this is much more ideal for Bryan.
Much better. So just in those few moments, we see the deck finally start to come into its own a little bit, and thank goodness that Moltres went back to the hand.
Yeah, no kidding. And also, the big difference between like last time and this time, Tobias has not taken like a 1 or 2 prize lead. Tobias has actually not taken a single prize yet, and the 1-minute damage that was done was on the Moltres, and that just got undone by the scoop up net. So
yes, so if they'd have managed to power tabs into a KO there, that would have been great, but
yeah, not the
wasn't the case.
No, so now Bryan has a way back into this game, and Tobias has to perhaps be a little bit more careful than he was last time about how he wants to approach this. You do see, the card gets stacked on top from the Rotom phone, and there's going to be a Fusion Strike energy, or Fusion Energy going on to the Genesect, interestingly enough. Of course, you could attack the Technoblast on the Genesect itself if you wanted to. It costs 2 metal and a colorless to do.
Which obviously can be fixed with our special energy.
Yes, of course. And there goes Fusion Strike System number 1, and there's an Ultra Ball, which is exactly what Tobias wanted to see. So with this, Tobias will be able to grab the Mew VMAX and start attacking. Although, again, you'd have to you're kind of forced into Psychic Leaping here, because otherwise you're just leaving a free prizer in the active, and that's really no good when Bryan can KO so easily.
Well, maybe not so much at the moment. Even 1 prize is not a lot. It won't have that Moltres in a 1-hit KOing position.
No, that's true, actually. What, you were doing... you were doing 70, which actually, even doubling pointless, I won't KO a regular Mew V.
No, so they could leave the Psychic Leap to next time.
There goes Fusion Strike System number 2 in any case, and finding a Battle VIP passive Quick Ball, so... imagine
they do seem to have... Do they have 1 or 2? I think they have 2 Sparkle in hand, so Psychic Leap might be desirable here. Just because, it's a boss.
Yeah, it's 2 boss's orders and 1 Elisa Sparkle.
Oh, that's a lot of supporters in a hand for Mew. It's not ideal for a Mew player.
No, you don't want to see all those clumped together like that. But there was a Quick Ball and a Battle VIP pass, so that's at least able to get that sort of dead card out of the hand, and 1 more Fusion Strike System to go for 2 cards. And it's a Cramomatic. Be useful for later for sure. Although right now, Tobias is content to Psychic Leap. And it does actually leave it in the active, because you're absolutely right. Like you said, there's no threat of a KO coming this point, so better to save it. Take some damage now, whereas Bryan tries to maybe take a 2-hit KO and then Psychic Leap to get rid of it.
Yeah, he's looking at wanting to save resources. He's got 2 Mew V on the bench with double turbo energies on both. Tobias can be greedy with their resources right now, because they've got plenty going on. Their 2 supporters are not ideal.
But
Maybe the boss, but they're quite comfortable just slowly bossing what they'd like.
yeah.
If they need to. There's what's on the bench right now isn't going to make a huge difference. So their choices for even boss aren't fantastic.
No. So another Fusion Strike energy going on to the Genesect, yeah, and then a quick ball discarding the Rose Tower. Again, I imagine this may need to just speed to Finn. The bench is full already, so you don't want to intentionally put another card in your hand.
No. Yeah, it's just a really strong position to be in. They've got 4 attackers set up, essentially.
Yeah, and one of them being only worth 2 prizes as well, which makes things even better. And all Bryan did was Gormandize, so although, yeah, he has this like Field of Soul set up, and yeah, there we go, Boss's Orders.
There we go.
Bringing up the Sobble with the Rapid Strike energy on it, and just trying to take out those resources as much as possible. I think with Tobias's list especially, you can afford to be like a little bit more liberal with your Boss's Orders because Tobias is, of course, playing that power pad to shuffle them back in.
Yes, absolutely. And Bryan has a full hand, so knocking out the Snorlax doesn't really do much because they can't utilize it without burning some through that hand this turn.
Yeah.
So a Sobble is a better knockout, and getting rid of anything that's going to help them along at this stage is a valuable expense.
Yeah, and I imagine, in fact, that depending on what Bryan's hand is like, we might even see a promotion of the Mew instead of the Snorlax, just to kind of see, well, depending on what Bryan has. Of course, if he has a lot of cards to play, maybe the Snorlax might come up after all, but it looks like I see a level ball and an air balloon.
Tobias's deck is getting very, very thin, though.
It is. I mean, this is kind of ideal, to be fair. You want to get your deck to the state where you kind of keep it at a super thin level, but then just don't go beyond that. So, and I think Tobias is managing that very well. Of course, the Psychic Leap.
Psychic Leap helps,
Yeah,
certainly.
makes the deck a little bit thicker. And then going to promote one of the Genesect Vs with no energy on it and take the second prize card. And, we do see, yeah, indeed, Bryan does promote the Mew. So, looking to... Of course, with the air balloon, this makes sense. You can get something with a level ball here. So I imagine that might be a Drizzile, just to search for a trainer, and then you can get something else with the Mew after the fact there. Oh, another level ball as well. So
double Drizzile turn.
Yes. So there's gonna be plenty of trainer search going on here. So Bryan's gonna pretty much have the ideal turn, I guess, for what he wants to do. What that looks like, I'm not 100% sure about yet, but I guess. Maybe carrying one of the Mew Vs might be good, just to knock some energy and an attacker off the board. So the looks just like that was an energy search that was fetched off of the Mew's Mysterious Tail, and then Drizzile goes down, Shady Dealings, searches for. We did see the peeking out the Boss's Orders, and that is going to be what gets brought out, I think. Yes.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Bryan's deck that I've noticed as well is that theoretically they can also, if we have a quick look at the deck list, I'm pretty certain that, they can attack with Crobat.
Oh, they can. That's true.
And that's just an interesting note, because that's really scary for a Mew V, which isn't evolved yet.
Yes, because, of course, what's it do, 70 damage, or is it 80? And then poisons, right?
70 double damage and poison.
Yeah, so it's not quite enough to get the KO, but it's still something to watch out for. That's why a lot of people end up playing Crobat VMAX in their list, right? Just because then you can kind of make that threat into something that actually one-shots. But it's something still important to bear in mind. Now, Bryan,
they have the Inteleon. They can ping things as well. They do have damage modifiers.
That's true, but here we go. So, yes, Moltres comes down with the 2 Dark Energy, plus the Fighting Attachment, Boss's Orders on the Mew V, and
it's gone.
Yes, that will now be a knockout, of course, with it now doing 120 damage, which doubles the weakness and hits for 240, which is enough for a KO.
Beautiful, and that's how quickly that Moltres can get down on the field ever so quickly.
Yes. Now we see a Chromatic here. Unfortunately, that is a Tails, it looks like. Tobias not really hitting well with the Chromatics this game. But there is the Meloetta potentially to play. Going to put down both that and another Mew. And now looking to maybe play a Power Tablet. Of course, I think there's a lot of cards he wants to see this turn, so it probably makes sense to just, thin out the hand as much as possible and then go for those Fusion Strike systems. There's one.
Yeah, and they've got a few dead cards in hand as well in regards to like the Battle VIP pass, which they can't get rid of right now.
No, like another Crown Matic would be ideal, because then you can just discard that. You can use that to discard the Battle VIP pass, and that's pretty optimal. But in the meantime, instead, there is a Power Pad coming out, so that's helpful. You can use that to shuffle back in a Boss's Orders and a Marnie. So Tobias is still going to have plenty of access to Boss's Orders in this game. And is mainly just going to be trying to dig for a knockout on this Galarian Moltres here. One Power Tablet won't be enough, but 2 would. So we find a second one. That would be pretty strong. And looks like off a Rotom phone, he has a few options here. There's a Switch, a Ultra Ball, which looks like that's what he's going to go for, which makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. The scary thing is Bryan now has their Clara.
Oh, Bryan was able to get off the prizes there. That's very important.
They took their second Moltres and a Clara. So if this Moltres go to the discard pile, we're going to see possibly a Mew promote, and then, here comes Moltres again.
Yeah, and this is exactly the strength of the Clara combo, right? It's kind of, you can just bring that Mutant, that Moltres out over and over, and then all of a sudden you're dealing with a threat that the Mew deck just can't really handle.
No, so I imagine they were very happy to see that Clara off those prize cards.
Yes, or even just the Galarian Moltres would have been fine, right? But but the Clara's even better, because then that lets you get back the 2 energies as well, which helps you out immensely.
Having this Moltres knocked out right now would not be the end of the world.
No. So, but I think it is still the move that Tobias has to go for, because obviously if you leave it out, that also isn't great. So there is going to be the Ultra being played, and
but again, ideally Psychic Leaping, right? Because you'd want to then promote the Genesect.
Yes, and then at that point it comes like a little bit tougher. Although you'd still be pretty close to a knockout. You just need like 1 damage modifier, because at that point the Moltres will be doing 170, and I believe the Genesect has 180 HP. So 190 even, but yeah. So even so, one like sort of Inteleon quick shooting would do the trick with the 170 from the Moltres.
Yes, and we've got both Drizzile ready to evolve.
Yes, very important. So I'm sure Tobias probably in his head knows all of this and is trying to work out the best approach going forward.
Certainly.
There is the Mew VMAX, and he's gonna. Okay. I think this makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, by doing Boss's Orders onto the Mew and KOing it, you're kind of denying a pivot option, essentially, and it kind of forces you to pick your attacker before you can even know what you're really working with. And there is a Psychic Leap.
Yes, and again, that will probably allow them to put something a little less scary than a 2 or 3 prizer into the active.
Yes, like that Meloetta, for example.
Yeah.
So now Bryan needs to find a lot, whereas before maybe, Mew could have done one of the pieces. Now Bryan needs to find a Boss's Orders plus the quick shooting Inteleon to get the KO on this on something.
Ooh, that's really interesting, the Pioneer, because there's a Dark Energy there, which would give them 2 in hand and the Moltres, so they are keeping the Dark Energy, and they can set a second Moltres up right now.
Right, of course, that's fantastic. So that means that he's going to have everything ready to go.
Oh, he only would need 1 more energy, and, I mean, you could Clara it, because there are already energy in the discard pile, so next turn, that Moltres is also ready to go. Yeah.
And yeah, I really sort of like this a lot. Although obviously Boss's Orders might have been nice to take care of this turn, now all Bryan does is KO the Meloetta, and I think he can still just outrace Tobias on prizes a lot of the time. And even going for the scoop up net on the Drizzile, so you can pick that back up and then put down the Sobble, and then next turn go for a Shady Dealings.
Yep, perfect.
And Bryan was very nicely able to put 3 cards that just aren't very useful right now into the prizes with the Pioneer. So putting in that Celebi, the Rapid Strike Urshifu, and I believe that's a Cheryl as well.
Yes, yes, full art Cheryl.
And to think that Bryan only had like a Moltres and a Snorlax at one point, and now look at this recovery. Bryan's done an immense job at sort of recovering from a slow start in this game, and now in this game, him getting a chance to show what a skill player he is.
That's the beauty of this deck, though, right? As well, like that's the beauty that Bryan has made here with their creation, is that actually this does bring late game fear.
Yes,
the early game Brian's expecting knockouts. They're okay with it. It's part of the plan.
It is.
And then
it's
late
so cool.
late game, they come in for the kill.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. And we've seen lots of these style of toolbox decks, but Brian's is quite different. I've not seen one like this before. They don't have a Rowlet. They're using Celebi. They've got the Urshifus in there as well. But you can just play it without the Urshifus.
Yeah.
And it can still do well, and that's why it's a viable Mew counter.
Yeah, and it's all good. Brian's like, I'm cool. It's all under control.
Absolutely. Cool as a cucumber. They are heading towards, hopefully, game 3 with this one.
Yeah, the only problem being sort of when you're dealing with these decks that sort of takes so long to win or lose because they're single prize attackers, that timer is looking mighty low.
It is. Brian's probably fishing for a tie here.
Yes, I'd imagine so.
By trying to win in time, and then game 3 would not be able to resolve.
Yeah, and of course, a tie is better than a loss. There's no question about that.
Of course, we still get points for ties.
Yeah, but you would rather win if you can.
Of course, but it was unlikely, unfortunately, with the style of deck. Mew takes a long time. You're constantly drawing cards from your deck, assessing what you've got, playing, draw more cards, assess what you've got, and play. And then Brian's deck is single prize.
Yeah, but yeah, right now I think Bryan can almost just set up a checkmate situation because he's got the right hand for this turn, so he can attach a fighting from the discard and then grab something else, and that being the Shady Dealings in Teleon.
Great choice.
And then next turn he can just Clara again for another knockout. So yeah, I don't think there's really a way that Bryan loses here because there's no way for Tobias to take there's no way for Tobias to take 2 prizes before Bryan can take his last one.
Absolutely.
So
even if it were good to go to time right here, by the time turns are done, it looks like that Cheryl's coming home with Bryan as well.
Yes, and Tobias maybe recognizing this, went for the Crammatic, did get ahead, he's only got 3 cards left in deck, and none of them help him. So yeah, Tobias scoops it up, and we're going on to game 3.
Let's see how far they can get into game 3.
It's
not a lot of time,
no.
But it could. There is potential that it could end in a win or a loss for either player.
Yeah. Well, in Pokemon you never know, right? Because like the potential of donks to happen just out of nowhere just means that obviously you play it out and see what happens. But I think as long as one or both of them just fills their bench full of Pokemon, at that point they recognize, this is
it's going to be a tie. But in the unlikely situation that one of them ends up with 1 basic and not much else to do, then it could be all over.
Yeah, you never know. So
it's worth playing it out. It's worth putting that setup time in just to see.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll have to see just how that pans out, though. So the players are both shuffling up now.
Let's have a look at the prizes.
And opening hands have been drawn. And here come the prizes. So one Sobble, Hooper, Quick Balls. Snorlax, not ideal. Well, maybe in a shorter game it doesn't matter as much, but in a longer game you definitely want that. And then nothing crazy for Tobias. So
no, I don't think either of those are awful. And already 2 basics down for Bryan is fantastic. However, the 1 Meloetta, not great for Tobias. So hopefully they manage to get some more basics out, which Mew decks can usually do quite successfully. But their hand doesn't look great.
There is 1 Genesect. I think that might be the only thing going for them.
But that does get something else on the bench, and they can't be donked.
Yeah, that is true. They're really not working with much, though. I think you're right. There's, I think they do have the Marnie, so that's something at least. 1 Genesect, Rose Tower down, and then Power Tablet, Double Turbo, and then Rose Towers draw 1. But Boss's Orders isn't very helpful.
Nope, they've already escape rope for what they want in the active, which is the Sobble.
So, gonna have to be a Marnie.
Which means Meloetta won't be doing any attacking this turn.
No, it's true. And what is that hand? Oh, okay, there is a Quick Ball, to be fair, so it's...
oh, that's okay. It's salvageable.
Yeah, but we're enough with a Quick Ball. That hand would have been absolutely horrendous. So imagine, where you're discarding a Boss's Orders off of that, and maybe... But wait, actually, I think with that, Tobias still has 3 cards in hand, so actually can't draw any more cards this turn.
No, not unless they burn the switch.
Was that a switch that he
I
had?
think there's a switch in hand, yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, they might want to do that anyway, just that because
Well,
even
the Mew has free retreat now,
Yeah.
so yeah, they've got a switch.
Yeah. Yes, so they do burn that, no question. Out comes the Mew, and then there's going to be 1 Fusion Strike system, and there's no Genesect. That's a pretty good draw, so now I can draw up to 4 with that.
Yeah, now Mew's kicking off. This is what we see from Mew.
Yeah.
That you just need to give it a little bit of wiggle room sometimes, and then it can start flowing.
Yeah, and with Bryan drawing the Rapid Strike energy and doing Keep Calling, yeah, I don't see this game finishing in 1 minute and 25 seconds.
No, even with turns, to get enough prize cards on either side just doesn't seem feasible, unfortunately, with the way both decks work.
Yeah. I must confess, though, if Bryan hadn't drawn that Rapid Strike energy, it could have been very dicey. The rest of his hand was actually completely dead. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the Rapid Strike energy for Keep Calling was pretty essential to stop Tobias just taking 2 knockouts and ending the game, and potentially, if not in time, in turns.
Yes. But
2 knockouts would not have been impossible.
Yeah, but here we go. So at least the Sparkle coming down, Tobias able to attach a couple of fusion energies from the deck. So gonna go but just opting to attach to 1. But again, is it due to conservativeness or is it due to like drawing the others? He drew both of them again.
Oh my goodness!
Every single time. That's insane. That's hilarious.
How?
But insane. So yeah, 2 in the hand, 1 in the deck, and then 1 in the prize cards.
That's Mew. Oh wow!
Unbelievable. There goes the power pad. And Mew VMAX as well, I guess. The only problem is if you evolve into the VMAX that there's no potential for a Psychic Leap. So I guess you could Max Miracle. That would work. That might even be where it goes. Or you could just also copy Melodious Echo. That would work too. Like, you're not as afraid at this point of a knockout happening because 1 prize is fine. Is that a retreat maybe happening? No?
No, I think they're considering what attack they're using.
Oh, okay. So they've just
there
gone.
We go.
Yeah. So
time went, and they decided we're not finishing this. Shan't waste our time.
Yes. So
good game. Go to a draw.
Yeah. So with that, that will be a tied match. Unfortunately, no time to finish out that game 3. And it's a shame because honestly, both game 1 and 2 were super cool, back and forth. Like, it's very interesting to see how the matchup played out. We saw both players really get to show off their skill set, I think, and just how they're able to recover from a bad start, and just showing how good they really are.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see both decks do their thing because both got a chance to shine in both of those games.
Yes.
And we saw big comebacks from both decks, so that was pretty awesome to see. So it's a shame they didn't get to do a third game, kind of at all.
Yeah, but and I think that third game was also shaping up to be pretty interesting, I think.
It was. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see a third game there, but that's just how things go when you play a deck like Mew or a toolbox deck. Both are slow.
Yeah, and it's so funny you say that because you think, oh, they're so fast, they draw so many cards. But the thing is, when you're drawing that many cards, you have so many more things to think about. So you have to think, oh, what do I do this? So what do I do now? And make sure I don't mess anything up. So, and all of those thinking time adds up to the game's taking longer. And then, you end up in a situation like you do now.
You pack so many actions into a turn.
Yes.
Because you are constantly drawing, having a look, using cards, drawing, having a look, using cards. It's almost like having lots of mini turns in a turn. You just keep going and going and going, and that takes a lot of time. It's not a Mew player's fault. It certainly isn't a stall tactic.
No.
It is absolutely just what the deck does, and it is churn through your deck as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and that is just how the deck works. But that does mean that, unfortunately, there'll be no winners interview this time. But that is just how it goes. Still another great match, and we've still got 5 more rounds of Pokemon action to come, of course.
We do, almost halfway through the day, sort of.
Yes, and I'll be very curious to see actually what ends up, because I think we're starting to get some idea of like what some of the top decks are, and we have like a mixture of some surprises, I think, with some stuff that you would expect to see at the top table. So
yeah, and we're not seeing some of the decks, or we haven't yet seen some of the decks that have done very well previously.
No,
so
that's a good point.
We're still missing a few star players that we've seen do very well at other regionals. So hopefully we've still got lots of surprises in store.
Yeah, and you don't want to miss any of them, so make sure that you stay tuned to the rest of the stream to find out what's going on. Don't go anywhere.